All right. I think we may give it a minute or two, let folks join us here and log in. But welcome, and we'll get started in just a minute here. All right. So I think since we're a minute over our time and we want to make sure that we are sensitive to folks' schedules, we'll go ahead and get started. So first of all, welcome to our webinar about flexible future-proof commerce. My name is Sam Goebel, Vice President of Digital Growth at XCentium. Just a quick word about who XCentium is. We're a full-service digital consultancy, and we're also a multi-year award-winning Sitecore Platinum partner, as well as the leading Sitecore Commerce partner for the Americas. And so I'd like to welcome our presenters today and start with introductions. Let's go ahead and start with the Sitecore team. Bill and Josh, why don't you tell us a bit about yourselves?
Hello, everyone. My name is Josh Kinzer. I'm the Vice President of Commerce Sales globally for Sitecore. I'm responsible for our whole go-to-market efforts in Asia, Europe, and the Americas. And I'm very excited to be here with XCentium today and to discuss Order Cloud and our commerce strategy with you.
Hi, I'm Bill Ostrus. I'm a VP in the commerce business at Sitecore and responsible for enablement of partners and our internal team, as well as working with them on customer opportunities and new business. Thanks.
All right, let's send it over to the XCentium folks. Phil, why don't you get us started?
Hi, everyone. I'm Phil Bowie, Senior Vice President of Commerce and Digital Delivery at XCentium. I not only help guide many of our clients through successful implementations of very large commerce ecosystems, but really help organizations lay out the strategic technical roadmaps that maximize return on investments and future growth opportunities.
Right. Thanks, Phil.
Thanks.
Cecilia.
Sure. My name is Kautilya Prasad. I'm a VP in the Sitecore Commerce practice at XCentium, primarily responsible for delivery of projects, solutions architecture, and mentoring, and of course, client success. I've been working at Sitecore platform for around 9 years now. I was a technology MVP, a Sitecore technology MVP from 2018 to 2021. And I'm excited here to speak with all the industry experts and looking forward to it.
Excellent. So our conversation today is really geared toward the business users of commerce solutions. And so our conversation will be semi-technical in nature, but we're going to focus today on highlighting the real value of adopting a modern commerce platform like Sitecore Order Cloud, where the value is, not only in creating that future-proof solution from the technical side of things, but really the opportunities that it provides organizations to enable the growth of those business teams and driving that operational efficiency. So again, we're going to talk about the cool tech stuff, but really connect that to what that truly means, right? And what that overall value prop is. So with that, let's get started with just some background on Order Cloud. If there are folks joining us who don't know a lot about it. So I'll turn that over to the Sitecore folks to share that with us.
Thanks, Samantha. So I'll lead in and then we'll pass it over to Bill for some context. So I think it's really important, if there's anything that we want to leave you with today in this very short amount of time, is that you understand why Order Cloud was architected and created and which problems it was intended to solve, because that gives you some context of how it aligns to the challenges you're really addressing today. So the main theme is that Order Cloud was architected to solve flexibility and deliver flexibility over features. Why is that the case? Because it was architected to really address commerce, limitless commerce within the business-to-business space, which is really the hardest, multivariable commerce solutions or use cases to address. So how did we go about doing that from a multi-tenant SaaS architecture basis to really deliver the economies of scale? We needed to be able to really address threads that address business process challenges, talent optimization challenges, and how and what people were actually doing in your organization, both on the business side and the IT side, to improve time to value. And then, what would the technology really need to deliver to accomplish those two first tenets that I discussed. So if you understand that framework, flexibility over features, and that we really are kind of going back and the threads of technology transformation that we've always really worked around, of people, process, and technology, are really the backbone to the edge and the unique business value that we believe that we deliver for commerce use cases and for companies really addressing these changes. So I'll pass it to you too, Bill.
Yeah, thanks, Josh. I think when we talk about that flexibility concept, it really is born out of the 20 years we've been working on the data model. The platform itself, Order Cloud, is very modern in terms of its architecture. Like you'll hear in the news these days, mock architecture, microservices, APIs, cloud native, headless. So it's designed with that architecture in mind, but provides a lot of some flexibility in order to handle those use cases, whether they're very kind of straightforward B2C use cases or more complex B2B use cases, or even supports marketplaces. So as a business user out there, if you're thinking about, you might be in a business that has, one platform that you're outgrowing. It's not able to support some of your new initiatives around revenue or operational efficiencies, or maybe you want to update the user experience. If you have sort of a straightforward use case like that, or if the business is evolving where you want to add brands or expand geographically, you might be using multiple e-commerce platforms in your business. One of the great things about Order Cloud is its flexibility to handle all of those scenarios. So as we encounter these new customers out there who are in any of those sort of situations, one platform can really solve for those problems. And we do that because of the robustness of the architecture and ultimately the data model. And so I talk about all these use cases where customers might have different types of users they're selling to, whether it's retailers or distributors or wholesalers, or they're a manufacturer, they want to now start going direct to consumer. Order Cloud can handle configuring those different types of users so that they can see different views of the catalog or different price schedules or use different payment methods. All of those things you contemplate as you're looking to maybe re-platform your e-commerce platform or add to it, add different business units or brands, like I said. Very, very flexible and configurable, not only around the users, but then also around the products and also around how you manage orders. And so all of those things come into play. And we've solved for hundreds and hundreds of use cases out there in the market. And that really has been our mantra from day one, is to make sure we maintain the flexibility of the platform to handle these different use cases. And in terms of some very specific things that differentiate the platform, the ability to handle those complex pricing scenarios, create a bunch of different types of promotions or approval rules to sell, subscription type orders. That's very popular these days. Businesses want to get into the subscription business, so their customers are ordering something that gets delivered every month. So really all those different variety of use cases can be handled by one platform.
Yeah, thanks, Bill and Josh, and that's an awesome overview. What we wanted to add, from the XCentium side of the house is, we're seeing the huge possibilities again for growth with this tool based on our work with customers. And I'd like to use this webinar to help connect the dots for folks listening, right? So we hear about the possibilities, but then there's that exercise of, okay, but what could that actually mean for my business specifically? So Phil and Catilia, I'll hand it to you guys next. So if I'm somebody who is currently, evaluating commerce platforms, considering what the next step is with where my business is today versus where I want it to go, what would be scenarios that would perfectly fit, Order Cloud? Maybe you guys can help connect those dots with, sort of the overview of the capabilities that Bill and Josh went through.
Yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of organizations are going to immediately ask, well, how much work is it really going to take me to implement? And it's not just any vanilla commerce site, right? But one that really represents what's unique about my organization and my business and how I interact with my customers. In the 20 years plus that I've been building commerce systems, I know that I don't want to be spending time recreating the foundational wheel. The same PDP, search capabilities, those types of things, I don't want to do that. Those are things I expect out of the box in a commerce platform. I also don't want to settle for basic out-of-the-box features, or worse yet, having to unwind a lot of the basic out-of-the-box features so that I can extend or customize it to fit my own specific needs. And too many times I've heard clients and even my own team complain on some more monolithic commerce platforms that it would have been faster and easier to build a feature that's bespoke to their needs as opposed to using a hacked up extended out-of-the-box feature. So as someone evaluating commerce systems, I think I would want something that would allow me to spend most of my time and energy defining and perfecting my customer experience and my relationship with the customer, generating new revenue models and increasing operational efficiencies. I think this is where OrderCloud really excels. Flexibility, as Josh and Bill noted, really is central to the DNA of OrderCloud, right? That flexibility allows you to build on top of the foundations and features without the bulk and the overhead that requires a lot of the redo.
All right. First and foremost, the value of a SaaS framework cannot be overstated. OrderCloud, Sitecore Cloud is a SaaS-based platform, which means there are a lot of things in the platform itself that are automated for you. You don't need a dedicated IT support team to handle a very common mundane task, like it can be automated by the framework. For example, the system can react when it detects an external event. Maybe it's a change in traffic pattern, or the data center which hosted itself is recovering from a disaster. So things like that, you don't need someone to have a run book and manage it ongoing. Basically, you need to maintain a run book every year, every month. You don't have to update it. The platform itself is going to recover and switch over to another region, and all your cards, orders, in-progress cards, payments, everything will be seamless to the users. So there's absolutely nothing required by a support team to look at the website, monitor the website, and then react. It's automatic failover. And same case goes for if there's an increase in traffic pattern, like you're seeing a high traffic on the website, the system will automatically add more resources, scale it up. And when it sees that the traffic is over, the high traffic time is over, it will automatically right size to the lower infrastructure. So these are all inbuilt for, otherwise you will need a team dedicated to monitor, add tools to monitor the website's performance and scale up, scale down, and fail over to a disaster region. Another key highlight is—
if I could add to that, I think one of the key things, one important things there is, a lot of times you can kind of predict what sort of traffic you're going to have, right? Black Friday, these things, and maybe if you're hosting your own environment on-prem or on cloud, you can size up for it. But a lot of times that requires the dependencies with the IT team and the marketing team to be in lockstep as to what sizing your environment has to be. If you are planning on running a campaign and that campaign becomes wildly successful and you don't predict it, you don't want to be caught, flat-footed where your system fails over. That's one of the benefits of having a SaaS platform, is that it's handled there for you, right? It's guaranteed and it's available for you, whether you have an unexpected surge or not. It's available there already, right?
Yes, the system can auto-heal and guarantee performance stability and make sure your end users are not impacted. Another key highlight is you don't have to worry about upgrading your OrderCloud instance. It's taken care by the product team, and you're always on the right instance, right version of the product. Also, it goes for the critical vulnerabilities. If there are any, it will be automatically applied. Your IT team does not need to track any KB article or anything. It will be automatically applied by the product team. All these savings can be used to actually focus your business, to drive business innovation and enhance your customers' and experience and user experience.
Yeah, how many times have you encountered a scenario where something has gone wrong. You said, oh, I need to get the cloud team looking at this. I need to get the I team, the tech team, the hardware guys looking at this problem because I can't figure out why this connection isn't working, right? These problems disappear in a SaaS platform. And one last thing that I really love about Oracle Cloud and SaaS is that, one of the key things that we often have to do is keeping production and some similar environment in sync, right? Whether that's a catalog, whether that's content, whatever the case may be, that's something that is always a pain point for people that are, or organizations that are trying to keep these things similar so that you can test against that. You can make sure that the sort of behavior is the same. Well, Oracle Cloud takes care of that all for you, right? Every week they synchronize all that data, so it no longer becomes a task that you have to take on. You're just using the platform for your business needs, and you're focused primarily on building business innovation as opposed to making sure that the pipes are all connected and all that mundane sort of stuff.
To add that point, Phil.
Sorry.
Sorry, one more thing. To add that point. When you're breaking data down from production to your low environments, Oracle Cloud does have integration events where you can add a pre-step and a post-step, so you can preserve something you don't want to override accidentally.
Yeah,
that's really helpful.
I'd like to jump into this conversation as the resident marketing person and like to kind of summarize the overview. What I'm hearing is that, a lot of the things that in the past were, almost like necessary evils, that you would have to have certain, blocks of time, certain investment in all these sort of operational maintainability sort of things. With that going away, in my mind, that's really going to free up that tech team to focus on key enhancements, opportunities for growing out new lines of business, and really being able for everyone to focus on that customer experience, where that becomes, like the real mantra of everybody, right? That's no longer just like the marketing side of the house, because that's really where that growth potential is. And we all know that in 2023, we don't have 6 months, 12 months to deliver on that, right? We need to do that stuff within a quarter and sometimes less.
Yeah, absolutely. And to that point, I think a platform that's built from the ground up, focused on B2B to C, really allows for extremely fast time to market of organization-specific innovations. We were able to get a client live on Oracle Cloud with a total implementation time of less than 6 weeks. That included integration from and to their ERP, NetSuite, payment processing from CyberSource, and various other integrations through MuleSoft. I think it's useful to kind of examine an almost universal scenario to kind of showcase the ways that Oracle Cloud makes these sort of things easier, right? So imagine that you have a need to introduce data from your ERP or CRM into a commerce system in order to run a promotion campaign or to introduce a new customer segment, right? 3 things typically you have to do. You have to modify the commerce system to accommodate that new information, right? Whether it's something, a new field or something like that, like premium membership join date on the customer profile, or maybe a list of best uses for a product in your catalog itself. So that's one, modifying the commerce system to accommodate that. 2 is you need to push and pull that data from ERP and CRM, right? And the last thing is to use that data that's in your commerce system to do something, to do a promotion, to affect a customer experience, to do something, right? Now, if we were to compare that to how Oracle Cloud does it and how it makes things faster and easier to do that, we can see that it really makes this sort of timeline that typically would have taken weeks to something that takes days, right? So in terms of task number 1, where you're modifying the commerce system to have this information, it's literally a 5-minute task to create that new field in Oracle Cloud. But not only are you able to create that, it's now available throughout that Oracle Cloud ecosystem, right? You don't have to worry about indexing that. So now it's searchable. So if you have search already on the site, you can search by those best uses facets. You don't have to add any additional code. It's now available in the system. You can refer to that premium membership join date within a promotion. And the promotion rules that you are creating does not have to be custom built. Oracle Cloud has one of the most powerful promotions engines I've seen, where you can create an expression of what the qualifying rules are. And so I may say that as a marketing user who does not have a lot of technical skills, I can say, well, if you join on this membership date and your cart is this amount and this blah, 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 whatever the case may be, you can craft those sort of rules that allows you to create BOGO or free shipping or whatever the case may be. Really, the sky's the limit in that regard, right?
Yeah, thanks, Phil. And I was going to kind of transition us kind of to digging a little bit deeper into this. So I think what we wanted to talk through was, you know, when we talk with Sitecore, we know what the possibilities of the platform are, but I would imagine that if you're, you know, a potential customer, if you are currently a customer, you're saying, okay, well, yeah, maybe that's possible. What do you actually see? So this one, I think, was a good example of, you know, for folks that are in the trenches with the product, really proving out, you know, what those capabilities are. So this is all really, really exciting to hear sort of the nuts and bolts of how quickly it is to release those new features. You know, and how that might actually work. Let's take this a next step kind of down the path of, all right, so now if you're evaluating Order Cloud, let's dig into some real life scenarios of, you know, what that day-to-day work might look like for those organizations. And I'd like to start with, you know, with Sitecore and your perspective on some of those details for what that day-to-day might look like.
Sure. So a couple of themes that Phil hit on, and let's talk a little deeper about some buzzwords that really apply from a technology standpoint around headless and what's referred to as mock architecture, API first and headless and microservices based. And I say that as a business person, not as a technician, really from a standpoint to understand what are we really talking about. We're all used to in technology, we act like concepts are brand new and we take them to market when really we've been using them historically in just different ways. For example, our iPhones, we're used to a headless, you know, using that, you know, we've been using that for years. I buy a new iPhone, it's impersonal, it's just purpose built for calling, I think, and then I go to an app store and I make it very personal to whatever use case I need by applying a head or a layer on that. That's really what Order Cloud allows us to do, is all the different experiences that we want to take to market, that we want to have commerce embedded in or associated with. They're different if we're delivering those on a phone, if we're delivering them on a device or in a kiosk or on a car or whatever that commercial event is that we're trying to monetize, is really Order Cloud doesn't matter. I mean, the architecture, the ability to have an event or a trigger, and the ability to map that to the right system and the right database to really keep track and process that is what's really sophisticated and elegant. So the day-to-day basis, really what both Phil and Celia outlined is shifting our efforts from a very high commodity based, like just business as usual, you know, really low value management of the IT systems into the high value consumer interaction. And then having the components of commerce really be these pre-built business capabilities that are extended as the use case is needed from Order Cloud. Like for instance, like where there's a shopping cart needed, the Order Cloud API would be, you would leverage that element. When it's not, that wouldn't be hidden. It wouldn't even be deployed. And there's all sorts of examples that Bill could, you know, go into detail around. But specifically, I think from a business standpoint, I want to think about what's the consumer layer. What am I trying to either from a new revenue attraction standpoint for the business, either like adding in new lines of products, adding in a new channel like a marketplace, adding in ways to automate some manual processes today in the business that might be you know, customer service space versus, you know, fully self-service through the technology. Those are the types of things that customers are leveraging Order Cloud to deploy. And then, as Phil mentioned, this isn't a 1 to 2 year sprint. This is a short sprint that you can measure and understand exactly what you're looking for, and then afterwards have a much different labor and team investment kind of cost basis to manage over time. So, Bill, what have I missed there? What other anecdotes can you lean into on what this the kind of envisioned future can be for customers?
Yeah, thanks, Josh. I don't know that you missed anything in particular, but I would just add that, you know, some of the tools that are available as part of the platform to our partners like XCentium that enable the customers to deploy maybe an entire new solution or maybe it's just a proof of concept for a new brand or a new area of business or a new geography that they want to get into. There are accelerators that XCentium has built on top of the platform that allow them to demonstrate some of these capabilities quickly, but it also allows them to deploy, like I said, these proof of concepts. So if you're thinking about as a business, yeah, I'm using this commerce platform right now to run the majority of my orders, but I'm thinking about adding this, or I'm thinking about doing this. It's very, very easy for the partners to deploy a sandbox, to deploy their accelerators, and to show you how the platform can address those needs. And I think that's one of the best things about the underlying architecture is it supports that agility, right? As your business customers are thinking about, sometimes they're thinking about it, or sometimes they're not. It just hits them, right? Like with the pandemic, obviously, a lot of retailers were, they had to close their doors. So how can I do, buy online, pick up in store? Well, Order Cloud performed super nicely in that scenario. We were able to enable that for a customer literally over the weekend. So it's very quick to deploy these sorts of changes to your production environment or to do these sort of proof of concepts. Phil, I'll hand it back to you.
Yeah, I think one thing that really adds that agility, right, is before maybe your marketing team or your IT team need to have a whole lot of skills. With this sort of headless approach, you can then the day-to-day, maybe what as a chief digital officer, you may come and you want to do a marketing campaign, you want to do something else. The changes that are related to that change in the head and that specialized application that's carved out, that's focus and shrinking focus of the team, it's going to be one that is primarily front end, right? So the resources that are required to do this would be someone that knows HTML, CSS, JavaScript, that consumes the sort of services from Order Cloud, and they're able to get this out very quickly, very based upon customer feedback, or within the business unit, they decide that they want to change something, that can be implemented quickly, and you don't have to wait for a whole series of dependencies before that in order to effect that change. And that's one of the things where I see this technology with the process and the sort of folks that are required within this whole thing are able to move at a much faster pace, and as a result, the business is able to reap the benefits of that agility.
Yeah, Phil, that's a game changer. I do want to make sure, with our last few minutes here, that we hold ourselves accountable to the title of this webinar here, which was, future proof. Let's underline for folks here, truly, does Order Cloud really help protect me from having to do, some giant, redo, let's say 5 to 10 years from now? Like, nobody has a crystal ball, but maybe you can help connect the dots as to what we mean about this really being a future-proof product.
Yeah, and I'll start with what I love about the platform right now, and I'll turn it over to Josh and Bill about some of the new features. But what I really love is the fact that, referring back to that universal scenario earlier, where you can define what sort of data structure and what type of content or data you want in your catalog, profile, order itself, and that's yours to maintain. It doesn't go away, right? And you can change that if you want to, but that's something that's defined and used by the system, and it can change as you need. But key things such as the idea of a marketplace concept is really useful, because if you start off as a B2C business, you're able to kind of explore a lot of the other features that you might not need right away, like the B2B sort of capabilities. The multi-tier pricing, which allows you to create and go into new customer segments and markets and show different things, availability based upon flags within the customer profile or capabilities that they have, and then additional powerful tools to grow and expand new businesses. And I'll turn things over to Josh and Bill to talk a little bit about the fact that as a SaaS platform, new features are being added all the time, right? Perhaps even now, when we don't recognize that there may be a need within the market, those things are constantly being evaluated and being added to the SaaS platform.
Yeah, that's perfectly said, Bill. Perfectly said. I mean, candidly, to future-proof a business, we're starting where we are today, and what are some things that have restricted our legacy platforms from extending into today and tomorrow? Most of those have been proprietary closed-in systems that we had to modify to really fit into our business process, and then our business process has changed as we're adapting to the market, and then how does the technology then it's rigid. So we need something opposite of rigid. We need something flexible And then we need something that, as the experience layer and the heads of life, if you think about, we weren't talking about metaverse, 5 years ago. And certainly we weren't talking about generative AI and how that was changing our landscape. These are trends that happen quickly, and time is just compressing all of these trends. The technology needs to be open. It needs to be very fast on the integration side. It needs to be able to shift our talent to be focusing on high value elements that are dynamic on the consumer interaction and engagement side, and not on the just robust, more commoditization of the commerce use cases. And that's what Order Cloud is, as Phil's referring to, is constantly updating and constantly scaling. So I think what we would say, separating Sitecore from the conversation, what customers should ask of their vendors is to have an open, modular-based approach that helps them scale quickly. And then also, what is better together? Will you do some of that integration work on your own with some of the other composable products in your suite, like Sitecore is doing, for instance, so that there's faster time to value and increased reasons for customers to partner with one vendor, because there's a financial and there's a benefit there, but it doesn't restrict their future as the world is changing. So Bill, I'll pass it to you.
Yeah, I don't think I have much to add, and it looks like we're kind of out of time. So hopefully you've understood sort of overall the flexibility of the platform, the way we handle releases, and the fact that if it's a headless platform, there are things that you can control as a customer in terms of managing your own roadmap. A lot of the things that you'll want to do in terms of handling those requirements that are coming up as new feature requests can be handled on the front end and don't necessarily have to be handled by the platform. So you have a lot of capabilities to continue to grow your e-commerce business as your business evolves and changes into the future.
Thanks so much, everybody. Bill, as you mentioned, we have run up against our time limit here, but I do think this was a really helpful conversation, digging in beyond kind of the marketing speak around the product. That being said, I think there's a lot more to talk about as we dig into the potential for Order Cloud, because there's some great value for sort of specific verticals that we'd love to dig into. So, you've heard today about how the platform is really flexible with minimal effort, supports both operational and marketing needs to drive that organizational change. But guys, thanks so much for the great conversation today. And for those of you listening, this is the first of a series. So keep an eye out for upcoming webinars as we dig in more to the real world applications of this great platform. So thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.